Hello and welcome to another edition of Normie Impressions of, a podcast in which I get three of my normie friends to dive deeper down the rabbit hole of anime with me. With me this week are Billy.
Heyo.
Ryan.
Hey.
And Sean.
Hey, Mo.
So, this week, as you might know, if you listened to the previous episode, we picked Great Teacher Onizuka for our 1990s anime to be discussing. How these episodes usually work, or how this podcast usually works, is we just watch the first episode of a show and then discuss. So, Great Teacher Onizuka is a 1999 anime from Studio Pero, which you all should probably know as the studio that is responsible for Naruto, Bleach, Yu Yu Hakusho, those sorts of shit.
If you asked me, I would have been able to tell you, and I would have felt smart.
Yeah, but I don't want you to feel smart.
Because I could kind of tell.
I'm the smart one here.
Alright.
If I'm not mistaken, they've also done work on things like The Legend of Korra, right? Sean?
I have absolutely no idea. Korra doesn't look anything like that to me. I just go off what it looks like.
I'm pretty sure... I know there was a Japanese animation company that worked on Korra, and I'm pretty sure it was
They did the Naruto movies, didn't they?
Yes.
I typed it into Google and I saw like the 3 Naruto movies and I was like, I just like yelled out and interrupted you. They did the Naruto movies.
This is already
Sorry about that. You keep going.
Anyway, as you just obliterated my train of thought here, the director of this show, who has worked on all of those things in some capacity, he's worked on Naruto, Bleach, and Yu Yu Hakusho. I believe he was actually the director of Bleach as well. Noriyuki Abe is probably a pretty big name in terms of directors because of the fact that he's worked on so many noteworthy shows. Great Teacher Onizuka, meanwhile, is a adaptation of a manga that came out mid-90s. So, Great Teacher Onizuka generally follows a guy named Onizuka, who was a former tough guy, sort of biker gang, who has a history of fucking shit up, and very sort of notorious among that culture. But for whatever reason, he decides to move to Tokyo to go to college and become a teacher. And this show starts off with him being a student teacher with the intentions of being romantically interested in his students. Let's go with that.
Not the right word.
Yeah, no, that's the word I'm going with. It's not a lie. So, with all that in mind, what I wanted to ask first off is, over the course of this episode, how did your initial expectations of the tone change from, like, before you had even seen anything to first starting and by the end of it?
It was a roller coaster.
I mean, the very first freaking shot is a girl going up an escalator and this guy looking up her skirt. So immediately I was like, oh god, it's going to be another one of these era manga type things.
I was immediately interested. Hook, line, and sinker.
It takes a little bit more of like a, I guess a reasonable approach towards the end. I mean, I see where they're going with it now. He's like this badass dude that's going to end up being a hero to all these kids, even though like he was like teaching this group of vandals and like awful like delinquents, and he ended up like proving to them that he's pretty badass. And I mean, everybody likes him. It seems like he's just got this badass reputation and he's really cool, but he's definitely like a huge pervert. Like, I don't know. I didn't really like that part. It was a little weird. How much like he fantasized about being in his 40s dating a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah, why they couldn't make it like a few years older? They had to say 16.
That's got to be like a cultural thing. Like, is that
something
even
about that number
moderately
seems
acceptable
cultural,
in Japan? Like,
I think so.
I have no idea.
I mean, I'm not a Japanese boy.
Like
We
you're
thought
talking
you were.
about like the
age difference, is that acceptable?
I mean, for starters, the age of consent in Japan is 13, so
Nice.
a wee bit lower than it is here in the States. Obviously, the States do it across like the board.
Yeah,
like
basically,
here, where
it's like take our sexual culture and just like regress it 3 years, and like they're like 3, like that's pretty much it, right? Like what we see as like a 16-year-old girl, Japan sees as like a 13-year-old girl. So by that logic, a 19-year-old girl here would be like a 16-year-old girl in Japan.
I guess. Like, I got that it wasn't so acceptable in the program, you know. His fellow student teacher gets expelled from the program for seducing someone for the third year in a row.
Yeah,
So obviously they're not allowed to be with their students.
That's because
But that seems
because
to
of the
just be
program,
like a
but,
program. Yeah.
Yeah,
thing.
but like culturally and socially, it seems like it's acceptable.
Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
let's take our state. Let's take our state that the three of us, me, Billy, and Ryan, are currently living in, Ohio. The age of consent here is 16. So I don't.
Well, I already knew that. You could have just asked me.
Yeah, I figured you looked it up.
Yeah, he had to adjust his Tinder profile.
Looked it up when I moved here.
That's the same
Just kidding.
age of consent in the military is also 16, and it's just that then we also follow.
That's weird. You can't
whatever
even
state
join the
we're in.
military till you're 18.
Well, sexual consent doesn't matter as much.
Anyway, as I was saying, the age of consent here is 16. So say a high school teacher were to get involved with a 16-year-old, they couldn't be punished by law, but they could totally be fired for ethical reasons by the school board.
Just baseline
And
misconduct.
that's how it is in Japan. Like they definitely have a little bit more of a sexualization of younger generations and people there,
And
but
octopi.
yeah, and octopi, of course. But it's not like it's like, yeah, go out, yeah, like that teacher, just go fuck that 16-year-old student of yours. It's not encouraged.
Well, yeah. I mean, once you kind of get over that, it really is kind of like a roller coaster. Because I started off going, wow, this show is creepy as fuck. Like, what am I going to... I'm going to sit here the entire episode and go, what the fuck did I just watch? And then I actually remember pressing X and being like, wow, there's like 50 minutes of this. Like, why is Miller doing this to us? but then as it went on a little bit, as soon as whatever her name was, as soon as she like fucked him over, yeah, I was like, okay, the show's getting a little weird now. I better start really paying attention. And then it turned into like him torturing his students and then earning their respect.
Yeah.
And yeah, which was a crazy scene, but I was very into it, even though it was way out there. That's kind of the point where I was officially paying attention, and it just kind of it got better from there, I think.
In the show's defense, all of the students do look like they're in their mid-30s, so it's not as creepy as
Well,
the
the
dialogue
guys
we
do. The
had
girls
earlier.
are just like the typical shonen, like.
They still look
girls,
like young
but-
women. They
Yeah,
don't
but like
look
the
Those guys reminded
like
me
the guys from
of-
that classroom were all like 40-year-old men.
They reminded me of the fifth graders in Hey Arnold, fucking Wolfgang. It's like this giant fucking kid. Like, it looks like
a
he's
year
got
older
prison.
than Arnold in the gang too.
Probably not even a full year, a lot of them, but they're all like jacked.
Yeah, it was like that for sure.
I mean, the guy, Onizuka was only 22, and the kids in the class looked much older than him.
They actually now that I know it's made by a studio. What is it? Perio? Is that how it's
Perio.
pronounced?
Pero, yeah.
Now it actually makes sense because Yu Yu Hakusho does the same thing with like they're all in high school, but like there's just these fucking jacked bullies that just like wreck adults out on the streets, and they're all like 15. And it's just like I can understand it now. That studio just seems to like to over masculinize like high school boys, and then overly like feminize. Like they just like take both ends of the spectrum and just completely exaggerate it.
It was a funny show. I kind of like that about it. It kind of handled comedy while it furthered their plot at the same time in a way that was engaging and just made me want to just finish out the episode strong. Like the next 30 minutes or so flew by.
I think it grew on me. Yeah, I think it needed some warming up too.
I'm in the same boat. That first like couple minutes, I'm like, all right, I know I have a higher tolerance for this sort of shit, but like, this is immediately pretty pervy, and I don't know how comfortable I am going to be watching 50 minutes of this.
I know.
And you think it's going to go in like an era manga route or like a more something like that, where it's just really uncomfortable and unpleasant to watch, and it's not. It feels like it's more so aware of the fact that this guy isn't a good person in every regard. That he is like the show is faulting him for his perviness, but also making a joke of it. So it has this balance where it feels a little better than things like era manga, but still has maybe some issues.
You mean like when the girl flashed him at the end and then threw her panties at him and it landed right on his face?
Yeah, because that part is like, it's him kind of like, it feels like that's the end of that story, and it's him giving up on, like, he doesn't seem like he's it kind of feels like he's giving up on his initial plan of boning a 16-year-old.
I think I think you hit it on the head though when you said awareness, just because like the show does just really seem to be aware of the characters' flaws, and they're not afraid to exploit them for entertainment. And but like a show like Aramanga Sensei, it's like they're trying to convince us that it's normal, but like this show, they know that it's like fucked up and that this guy has some character flaws, but they're using it in a comedic way, and sometimes it's borderline creepy, but I think they pull it off a lot better.
Yeah, they do.
There is a bit of a plot hole. That girl who has done that to teachers many times, it was her plan. She just gets naked, takes pictures, or half naked, takes pictures with her like on all of these teachers. She is not a virgin, no matter what she said at the end. It just doesn't add up, you guys.
Girls that are virgins don't go to the top story of a school, strip their panties off, and throw them at a student teacher.
In my experience, it's exclusively virgins who do that.
Yeah. Shy teen's first time caught on camera. No, it's not.
Shit. Ryan just spoiled porn for me.
Spoiled porn.
I'm a little upset.
Like you weren't just gonna go to the end.
So that was the one little structural part of the show I had a problem with. I didn't like the character at the beginning, and I still didn't like him at the end, though. I feel like he's just irredeemable, you know? He's got some good qualities, but it just doesn't make it up. But that's fine. I don't need a character who I like to be the protagonist.
Yeah, I don't know
I'm
if
just saying that he didn't become like this great guy by the end.
I don't know if their goal seems like they're trying to redeem him. I think that like they showed at the end of the episode that he's like he can be warm-hearted and he can like have better intentions, obviously. But I think like the point, like I don't know, I can't really judge off of one episode, but it seems like the point of the show is just going to be like, yeah, this guy's a fucking asshole. But like he also can be pretty cool sometimes, and all the kids like him.
Yeah, but he's cool in a way that teenage kids like. Like, what he did barging into the house and breaking the people's walls. Like, oh, wow, such a badass. But, you know,
just a badass guy that the teenagers look up to. He's just a young adult that's a fucking thug. And he's got a badass reputation, and he's also kind of a perv. But the kids are like, you know what? He's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool how he...
I feel like the show's not trying to reach out for anything other than that.
But I liked it. I thought for his character, it was redeeming in the sense that he was doing something for somebody else. Like, he didn't have to do that, and he knew he was leaving. Like, it didn't really make a difference. It's not like he got her. He seduced her. He just did it for her and then left.
He was seconds away from doing her in the beginning, though, before it was revealed to be a...
I mean, he was a stronger man than I would have been in that situation.
I thought he was going to slaughter
That's
everybody.
not saying a lot.
And you know, in the beginning, when he was trying to like basically sell 16-year-old girls to the cop that pulled him over. I thought it was going to go in a much more a much creepier direction. I was like, is this cop going to say yes? Are they going to be in cahoots? I don't understand what the show is.
It does get like weirdly not like super dark, but like as I was trying to get at with the initial question of like how the tone evolves over the course of the episode. Like out of nowhere, about I want to say like 2/3 of the way through the episode, Nanako like tries to jump off the back of his bike and into oncoming traffic because she's so like fucked up about her like parental situation.
Which isn't that bad.
Oh, she has issues. She has real issues.
Yeah, her parents are fine. Like, just leave them alone.
Bitch is crazy.
I mean, they're just like she's fucked up about them like not being in love anymore and not really feeling like a family like they used to.
Sure, but she's a complete psycho. She's gonna be so much fun in college.
Jesus Christ.
But fucking awful in her 30s.
She's one of those girls that you'll marry because, like, goddamn, she's fun. But then in your 30s, you're just gonna be like, she's ruining my life.
Yeah, slow down.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, suicide. Right, go on.
I just wanted to kind of like briefly mention that because it feels deserving. Like the show does kind of. It starts off in a way that makes us think of Aramanga because that's a show that we've seen prior, and then it kind of gets a bit more serious at times. And I think that's how it earns it's the fact that he is a creep, that he does have those redeemable qualities, and the show's not trying to like. It's not speaking so much directly to the audience as it is just talking about the characters in general. Because a show like Aramanga is trying to get fucking weird-ass little 16-year-olds hard about the thought of fucking their little sister. Meanwhile, Onizuka is kind of making fun of the reality that there are creepy assholes like Onizuka out there that have interest in way younger girls. Well, not way younger, I guess, because he's only 22, but like the maturity difference at that point is obviously an issue. I think that's why, because it has those darker tones at times, it earns some of that back. Because I probably wouldn't have been super into the show if it kept the tone of the first, 3 minutes, but it evolves.
And that's kind of what I meant when it's like a roller coaster. And then after, in that same scene, I guess, at the end, he gave like it wasn't a strong speech, but it was like a speech on not going back to the past. And basically he was just telling her to like, stop bitching, handle yourself. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then he just left. He just left her, told her to go home.
But then he meets her at home with a gigantic mallet.
Oh, okay.
With the
no, I know it. No.
I wasn't going to go in that direction. I was just
You were going to mention his big hammer. We're not going that direction.
No, I was just going to
I didn't go there.
Like, the night didn't end where Sean left it off, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, that was him kind of regressing and tapping into his former self for the sake of
not regressing. He was showing her the way. Like, this is an example of what you can do to fix your own fucking problems.
Yeah, it was a metaphor. He broke into the people's... He walked right through the owners of the house and then bashed their wall in for a metaphor.
Well, the wall itself was the metaphor.
Yeah, and the mallet was real, and the wall was also doubling as a real wall.
Yeah, metaphors are used differently in anime, I feel like. Like, yeah, to the viewer it may have been a metaphor, but I think it literally... It's a metaphor in the sense that, like, it's metaphorical to us because we're watching entertainment, but, like, in the show, is literally...
I know, she was complaining about the literal wall, yeah.
I'm not talking about the wall, I'm just talking about... Him doing that was him giving her a non-metaphorical example of what you can do.
I feel like you're really hung up on this wall right now, Sean.
I'm the one who's not hung up on the wall.
Okay, good. Moving along here, because we've kind of been tapping into this point already, is a reason why I like watching some older anime, and just because a reason that I like watching things from other countries in general is that they can often be cultural pieces, or if they're old shows taking place in an older time period, also a timepiece. So I just want to kind of get a feel, if you learned anything about Japanese culture in any capacity whatsoever by watching this.
I don't know. It's hard to say that I'm learning real Japanese culture from their animation, because I don't really know what to take away.
I know the Japan is a little behind in terms of viewing women as equals. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yes, and yeah, that's part of it. There's a lot of different aspects that I was getting at. We kind of talked about
a white guy.
all of his students were they looked a little older, a little bit more thuggish, and that his past is that he used to be part of a biker gang. But there's a thing called Yanki culture in Japan, or the Bozuku gangs that are biker gangs, and unlike biker gangs here that we think of Hell's Angels, where they're typically we think of older people and how shows like Sons of Anarchy display biker gangs, whereas biker gangs in Japan are often more so youthful things about they're really they're the punks essentially of that culture. I want to kind of suss out that was just in that out of itself, was that interesting at all to see something like that?
Do they need a white guy to lead all of the biker gangs in Japan, or is that just how this one turned out? Are they not a real gang until they get a white guy to join them with blonde hair?
The thing is, he's obviously not white, because
right. No, the blonde hair is just a fake out.
Well, there's actually a reasoning behind it. You could trace it back to the culture again, to the sort of punk Yankee cultures that they'll often dye their hair outrageous colors like blonde to symbolize that they're rebellious. And hence why Onizuka has blonde hair.
Actually, yeah.
Obviously his name is Japanese. It's just he looks like a fucking white guy.
Okay. Well, I think the girls don't look like Japanese girls. Yeah.
No, the girls look Japanese.
They look like anime girls.
Yeah, welcome to anime, Ryan. Not everyone looks like the most Japanese person in the world. They're kind of just ambiguous.
Whatever.
But I see what you're saying, but I don't have like a big enough foundation of Japanese knowledge to sort of relate anything to anything else. Like, I don't catch on to a lot of that stuff because I wouldn't know that it's a reference to something.
So you're saying, like, because you had no foundation of the knowledge of the, like, there are biker gang culture over there, and at least...
Right,
like,
I didn't even know there was a biker gang culture over there.
You feel like it could have been just any sort of old thing that was completely made up.
Yeah, if they just told me, or if I found out the whole thing was just, like, fictional, like, yeah, there's no biker gangs in Japan, that's just the plot of the show, I would have been like, alright, that's kind of what I assumed. Like, I don't...
Yeah, I mean, I get
don't
the
know.
whole gang thing, though. Like, the gang punk connection that you drew. Like, they're not, like, necessarily, like, murderous gangs that are trafficking drugs through the country. They're more so just, like, the punks. Like, the 15 to 17-year-old kids that just are, like, up to mischief, and they get in fights out of school, and they don't listen to their parents, and that's kind of, like, that's the kind of what I drew from it. And it's the same exact thing in Yu Yu Hakusho.
For me, the timing was what kind of confused me about his career as a badass, gang member. Because he kept saying, 6 years, we moved out to Tokyo, they basically started a new life there. He was 22. It means he retired from the streets at age 16. And they in the same first episode, they show flashbacks of him and his friend, like, just beaten and bloodied up. It's like, what the hell did these kids go through?
Well, it's obviously exaggerated.
Maybe it's like, it's
but
Naruto,
they'd like you to believe that there's
it's a split reality.
He was like the ultimate punk. Like he was like the badass on the streets that nobody fought because he just could
At
hold his
22,
own.
he's a second-degree black belt.
He mentioned that,
with
and it seemed like a
history.
throwaway sort of line. I was like, whatever. Like, where do you even learn
Like,
that?
this guy, he's been beating the shit out of people since before he retired at 16. This he got his reputation, obviously, before he retired. So, like, it's just insane to me, the infamy of this kid's name. The infamy that he just kind of garnered over the years of, 13 to 16?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like anime just does that. They take people and like make them way younger. It's like way over exaggerated. Like, I mean, how old was like Naruto when he like saved the world? Like
17. It was his birthday.
Yeah. All right. Whatever. But even before the end of like Shippuden, like when he was like fighting like Orochimaru and shit, which is like
Yeah. Towards the
a
middle of
very
Shippuden.
insanely tough opponent. He was like what, like fucking 13. So I think they
He
just
was
do
16.
that in anime.
Or 15.
Or you could just...
Whatever.
I know what you said. Yeah, because when he was 12, he was
Yeah.
fighting fucking Haku and Zabuza and Gaara. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Just not steering us back, of course, away from Naruto.
It requires a suspension of belief, which is fine. Like, it's
Disbelief.
okay,
Well, you're
whatever.
suspending belief.
Yeah.
You're not suspending disbelief.
No, you're suspending disbelief.
No, you're wrong.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. I will literally challenge you on this later. We'll move away from it on the podcast, but I'll bet you $5 later.
Okay.
Okay.
You're on.
Please don't, Billy.
You're on.
Okay, anyway. Like Sean was saying, you have to kind of like accept the fact that the show feels larger than life, and within the context of it, you could kind of suss out that like all these characters, even the bikers that like show up in the park to fuck with some of Onizuka's students who had been fucking with him, they know Onizuka by reputation because he was so prolific in that culture. So like you can kind of get like, if you just take the logical steps here, that yeah, he's important to that world, but maybe he's not really that like important in a grander scheme because none of the adults really know who he is. Because these biker gangs are all kids, and like, what's a powerful person when you're 16?
I didn't think that biker gang was a bunch of kids, Miller. I think it was like grown men.
No, they are.
No, they're probably all like 15, 16.
Yeah, they're all like supposed to be around like the high school age. It's just that the show has an art style, obviously, because of the 90s, because they don't de-age people as
Yeah,
much
if you
as
ever
the
actually
90s
saw like
anime.
a full-blown adult in this show, I guarantee you, he'd like it would be clear. Like he'd be
There was
wrinkled and shit.
his
The
senior
parents.
teacher, the guy he was working
Yeah.
under, or the parents.
Ryan, I've come to accept the fact that you just kind of suck at like guessing people's ages.
No, I didn't. It didn't occur to me that they were
No.
children either.
I
was
think the
like-
main character looks 22 to me. I was just saying that people in this class obviously look older than they should, and the gang members.
Yeah, because
I mean,
they're
especially
being
the leader.
exaggerated. Because that's the like part of like again going back to the culture. Like
So fair enough. I'm just not familiar with the culture.
Like I thought that one class was filled with a bunch of like giant.
Yeah.
I didn't think the whole school was like that. So I didn't
it's
assume
not.
that those bikers were all kids. They looked like grown men. They looked like they were led by a guy who had seen better days.
Yeah, maybe that guy's like in his early 20s and like an equivalent of Onizuka because he's fucked up and still hanging out with biker gangs that are a bunch of like teenagers. But like, yeah, I feel like getting a little too like into trying to be realistic about the show
Oh, that's kind of.
that has.
But is that our fault? Because it's just. I know that it takes a bit. Like if we were to watch the show more, we would get it more. But for the first episode, it is very odd, and it's very hard to tell when you don't really know how the style and how the world is outside of that one classroom.
I guess. I mean, this also gets into the fact that like we picked a 90s anime, and 90s anime tends to be, in comparison to things that we've been watching that are like 2005 and newer, people look older in 90s anime. They look appropriately aged or more so, whereas like in things like Eromanga Sensei, where like the sister looks like she's 8 in Eromanga Sensei when she's actually like 13 or whatever. But
Oh yeah, she showed up.
You get what I'm
She was
saying.
like 4
Which
when she
seems
moved in,
counterintuitive.
and 3 years later.
Counterintuitive. You'd think that they'd make her look way older because of the way that they're portraying her.
Yeah.
that would be hot then. Oh.
God damn it.
But I don't know. Honestly, the show felt like home to me because Yu Yu Hakusho is my favorite anime of all time. But we don't have to talk about that. But I'm just saying, like, I watched that show and I grew up watching shows which apparently were by this studio and I didn't know. But like, it makes sense. Like, it felt really familiar and really homely to me watching it.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, you were right about comparing like some of the characters of Yu Yu Hakusho to this. I haven't seen Yu Yu Hakusho, but I know the characters that you're thinking of. At least, like, I can picture them in my head that would look like some of the like the biker gang kids in this.
Oh yeah,
It makes sense
definitely.
because they're all coming out. This is all coming out around the same time, and it's all coming from a similar studio. The dude, as I mentioned, who directed this, was involved with Yu Yu Hakusho, so it's logical. Speaking of the animation, I kind of wanted to like get a sense of what you all thought of it, because I have a strong feeling about some things.
I mean, the animation in general.
Just yeah.
I thought it was really good. Like, I didn't have a problem with it. Sometimes, like, the facial expressions were a little off-putting, but it was mostly comedic, so it wasn't like they were trying to be serious a lot with those things. Like, when he gets really angry and his entire face changes, I'm like, that's kind of funny. But then it takes away from the anger that they're supposed to be sort of conveying.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I got the job done, but we're coming off of the last thing that we watched for the podcast was Princess Mononoke, and this is a step back from that in terms of animation for sure. But
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in terms of like the animation portrayed the story just fine. I understood what was going on. It wasn't like the highlight of the show, but it wasn't like a downfall either.
Yeah, I like my thoughts were that it was probably one of the weakest aspects of the show, and that Sean, you pointed out the faces that like initially like takes a little bit of getting used to, where like they're trying to make these really over exaggerated like weird ass fucking faces that don't make any sense, but like you get why they're going for it because there's like the comedic aspect there, but like there's just like some of the just the general like character design and artwork of the show feels weak. Like you can kind of see the jaggies a bit when it comes to it. But like I'm also trying to think of like shows that also came out around this time, and a lot of things around then just looked better. This feels like it was maybe taking from the art style that it like the manga was done by, and the manga was like mid 90s to early 90s if I'm trying to remember correctly. But then the manga maybe was influenced by things even earlier than it. So it feels a lot more dated than what I think of a 1999 anime.
When I look at it, I just say, oh, that looks old. I don't have that breadth of knowledge. I'm just like, clearly it's just an old anime. And it just takes a bit to get used to because my TV is huge. So it's like the flaws are a little bit more apparent.
Humble brag.
75 inches, 4K.
Thrown in a little brag in the middle there.
Yeah, it's bigger than the one in my bedroom by about 10 inches. So whatever.
I mean, goddamn. I mean, that's a thing to kind of bring up is that like TV size obviously does matter for these things, but also Crunchyroll's streaming quality has apparently gone down over the last year and doesn't look as great. And
So am I the only one that watched this on YouTube? Because the entire series is on YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah,
you
I mean,
are.
we just watched it on Crunchyroll.
It was great quality, and
You'll-
God bless whoever uploaded that. I'm not gonna call you out, but
So you're not going to give him credit.
well, I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to be up there.
Call them out.
No, it's probably not.
No.
It's probably just no one noticed because it's an old ass anime.
Yeah. If anyone
But yeah,
cared,
as I was-
it's gone.
As I was like trying to fish through things that came out around this time, like the first thing that popped in my head, and this is an unfair comparison, was Cowboy Bebop, because Cowboy Bebop looks fucking amazing even today. Even by today's standards, it is a great looking show. So comparing to Onizuka, like, it didn't seem fair, but still Onizuka just had a feeling like it seemed old, and it seemed like it would have been old to even watch it when it was coming out in 1999.
Like you would have watched it in 1999 and said, "Oh wow, this is an old one. Could have been made in the 80s."
Yeah,
Somebody-
like real early 90s.
It kind of looked like Berserk 97. It's just that this show takes a little more creative license with, you know, all the expressions and all that stuff. It looks, you can tell what decade that an anime is from.
Yeah, but Berserk has like brilliant artwork is the thing.
Yeah, the landscape.
You could
and the-
you could take
yeah.
a still from pretty much any scene of Berserk and make that into a painting, or like just post that exact still on your wall as a gorgeous piece of art to impress the ladies with. But like this, not so much.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just saying they still both have like whatever, like the '90s anime markers, whatever they are. Like you can tell right away what decade this anime is from.
Sure, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
They don't look anything alike, but I guess the fact that they don't look anything alike proves my point. And that, like, yeah, you can just tell. You just know immediately, oh, 90s anime.
Yeah, I mean, as we were getting into the last podcast, is that from the 90s to like, and going into the 2000s and the mid 2000s, by now, things transferred from cell animation to digital animation. Being able to tell the difference in style between those things is so much easier as like trying to differentiate something that was like maybe late 80s to 90s, whereas you could totally get confused and I wouldn't blame you. Especially guys like you three who haven't seen a ton of anime. Like if I were to pull out an 80s show for us to watch next episode and you all thought it was like a 90s show, I wouldn't really blame you. But like if you try to watch a 90s show and you thought it was like 2010 show, as you said, Ryan, you would easily be able to tell the difference.
Yeah. I mean, like, the original Dragon Ball doesn't look much different from a typical 90s anime.
No,
In the 90s.
So, yeah. Well, no, the original Dragon Ball was like 1980 something, wasn't it?
I believe so. I think it was 89.
Pretty sure.
Someone will correct me like they did on like that reminds me, I fucked up last episode. Technically speaking, Disney doesn't own Ghibli. They were publishing them for a while. My bad. Somebody corrected me on that. I fucked up, guys.
You were so stupid.
Maybe if you stopped drinking every podcast.
I mean, I knew that.
Anyway, moving along here. I know that we haven't been watching a ton of anime, but I know that you guys at least have some knowledge of typical setups of anime, especially... Sorry, I had a burp from my beer. Ironic that you just called me out on being an alcoholic. But as I was saying, you at least... Like, you guys all at least know about the fact that, like, high school anime is really prolific right now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Besides Ryan.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we
I mean,
watched
you
that
can't
one
think for all of us.
episode where it was basically like one guy hooking up with 1 million girls in his high school. And this isn't new.
Okay, so you're all aware of the fact that high school anime is really flooding the market,
Sexy.
per se.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. God damn it. Flooding the market. So, like, did you at least have an appreciation for the fact that this was coming from a teacher's perspective?
Well, yeah. I mean, when I voted for GTO at the end of the last episode, I was not expecting this at all, obviously. But what I was expecting was what I intended on appreciating, and that is the teacher's perspective in the high school environment. I was just kind of, I mean, I don't know what I was hoping for, but like I was expecting more of an established teacher.
Like a great teacher.
Winning the hearts and minds of the
How do I teach these kids?
Yeah, I thought there was going to be the teacher, and I thought there was going to be like a student who needed to be helped from, get his grades up from the bottom.
An
like
extremely
a brilliant
troubled
potential.
student, and the teacher just like was the only one that could get through to him.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be something more along those lines. It wasn't.
Writers.
I was wrong. Wasn't even close. But I still did appreciate what I knew I would, and yeah, that's the teacher's perspective. So that was
funny.
probably. I mean, that's not exactly the focus of this show, but still, it's nice to see the other side when, as you say, the high school anime thing is so prolific, and it's always the same story. This is at least the other side of the same coin, if not a completely different fucking
He's a
coin,
great teacher, just not in the classroom. Teaches life. He's
I think it would be really cool if they went full swing with this, and he actually became like a really distinguished, like, studious person that just like didn't have time for girls and was like just this old college professor that just like learned the hard way.
I don't know. I think that his classrooms are just going to become a harem.
Or he's just going to morph into Jiraiya.
Could go that way too.
Yeah.
Why would he want to?
Yeah, I think he's going to summon the Gundam wings next episode.
I think he's going to find a young blonde kid with not much innate potential, but someone who works really hard. And I think that he's going to teach him the Rasengan. And I can't say for sure, but I think there's a possibility of that happening.
Right, well, we're not talking about Dragon Ball Z. We're talking about something else. So.
Okay, great, good. And I kind of brought that up because we've talked in previous anime about things that were targeted or felt targeted for a younger audience, and that maybe we didn't exactly vibe with those things anymore. And it was nice to kind of get a perspective of a teacher because we're not 22 and we're all 25, but like it's more in line with our ideas and perspectives on the world than the prepubescent or pubescent 16-year-old or whatever.
I was going to say like the scenes with the teachers just talking to themselves, the student teachers in the back. That's the kind of thing that we're familiar with, We're familiar with the professional side of things. They're ironing out their day. They're talking about how shitty their students are, That's where we're at with life. It's refreshing to kind of get that, to get the nonchalant, the aloofness of teachers when they're not being, graded by better teachers.
The one dude literally got kicked out for seducing a student. Like he literally just wasn't there at the end of the episode.
And they glossed over it. They just kind of said it and no one reacted.
Yeah, like that is kind of refreshing now that you sort of bring that up, to not for once have to worry about fucking kids and their goddamn problems.
Yeah, right. Because just like Miller said, we've already identified that like we can't identify with that anymore. It's just too far in the past. We all have too much experience between those days, and where we're at now, and it's just that won't appeal to us. But this has a real shot.
Good. So if that's all we have to say, any last words on GTO Great Teacher Onizuka from anyone?
Yeah, I think for our next show we should watch Degrassi, Next Generations.
Gonna shoot that one down real quick and firmly and say that you are a bad person, Sean. We're not watching that shit.
Jimmy was shot down.
Jesus.
Yeah, too bad his career continued on
and JD
afterwards.
was stabbed.
JT. James Tiberius York.
Goddamn.
Very
goddamn is right. No other words on GTO, right? Okay, good.
You talking about GTY. Damn, I fucked that up.
I fucking hate you so much. I really do.
Go on, close it out.
I just think that one girl's gonna run out of panties. I just want to say that real quick. That's all I had to say. I think she's probably gonna be running low on panties pretty soon. Yeah, but she just chucks them around the corner whenever she feels like it's. I just don't see her having a full set back at home. That's all. All right, go on, Mel. You can wrap it up now.
Okay, so would you watch any more Great Teacher Onizuka, Billy?
Would I? Yes. If and only if I came home and another episode was on the TV, and I didn't put it on, and somebody handed me a beer and a steak, and I sat down, and I was like, sure, I'll watch this. But as far as going out of my way to watch more episodes, probably not. It seemed
Would I? Yes.
It seemed alright.
Will I?
It seemed alright,
not.
but probably not.
So let me just
Makes it
correct
pretty
the
awesome.
answer I typed down. Okay. Unless, Billy, what are you doing tomorrow? Why don't you just go out for 20 minutes and then come back, and then I'll have a beer, 2 beers in hand, one for me, one for you, and then the TV will be on downstairs with the second episode. What do you think of that?
I would watch it.
Okay, then. That might happen. Alright, Ryan, would you watch more GTO?
Yes, I would.
Oh my god. That
Yes. No, yeah, I don't see any reason not to. But I kind of like Billy, but I'm a little more likely to just turn it on. I just kind of want to know how the second episode started. The first episode had closure, I'd like to know where it goes next, because I honestly don't really have any idea. Like you said, I guess it's kind of leaning toward him becoming a legitimate teacher in his own right. But by the end of the first episode, I was pretty satisfied with how the story how that episode closed out. It seemed like there weren't any questions I had left that weren't answered,
Everything about that episode is wrapped up, and as we should mention, it is a double episode, so it's 48 minutes long.
Yeah.
So it's a very contained plot. If there was no more GTO whatsoever, it wouldn't feel like they just left us hanging.
Mhm.
It makes sense for it to end there. So I'm also curious as to how this evolves. So, Sean, sorry, coughing. Beer is not good for you children. Don't drink it. Sean, would you watch more Great Teacher Onizuka?
Yeah, I would. For the same reasons you guys just went over. I just think at the end of this episode, it felt like it was going to be sort of episodic, but then I was like, maybe that's just a strong pilot. It would be interesting to see what happens next, and just what this show in general's about. Because you get a little bit a taste of it, but you don't really know what the whole point of the story is. So I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I was going to also say, I feel like I could totally see it going an episodic sort of slice of life style from here on out.
Yeah.
And I'd be totally okay with that as long as they keep it funny. It is 48 episodes, 47 episodes, I forget exactly, but it's a longer anime than most, especially nowadays. So now for me, would I keep watching Great Teacher Onizuka? Yeah, I liked it. It is a very highly praised anime on my anime list and amongst the anime community in general. If I remember correctly, it's sitting at sitting on an 8.75 on Mal as ranked the 36th best anime ever amongst Mal users. So
Wow.
people do like this show. So at least for that reason, I would continue to check it out. I wasn't blown away in any capacity. It seems like it'd be a 7 out of 10. A good show, but not great. So yeah, definitely gonna watch more of this. Alright then. Now, what are we gonna watch next time is the big question. And this week I'm not letting these 3 assholes choose. We're just gonna be doing what I want to watch. And what I want to watch is a fall anime, because by the time that we have another episode coming out, it's gonna be the very first week of fall 2017 anime. So, we're going to be talking about Black Clover, which is probably one of the bigger ones coming out this year. So, look forward to that in 2 weeks' time. Until then, you have plenty of other things to look forward from me, personally. Recently, I came out with a video about Little Witch Academia, my second one. It's all the things that make Akko's adventure in Susie's world great. It's about the 8th episode, if I remember correctly. And it's that episode where Akko dives into Susie's consciousness and sees all this crazy-ass shit going on. It is a great episode, like I say in the title. And another thing I have that should be out by the time that this podcast airs is how New Game gets cute girls doing cute things wrong. New Game is an anime that's was pretty popular last year. Its second season's doing really well. And so I gave it a shot, and that genre's not exactly for me, but there are examples of that genre of cute girls doing cute things that I do enjoy, and I want to kind of get into why New Game doesn't do that right. And one more thing that you should look forward to is a bonus episode of Normie Impressions of that we're going to be recording right after this episode.
Oh my god.
And it should be out within a couple days of this very episode. And we're going to be talking about our favorite anime. So look forward to that as well. And finally, you can follow me on Twitter @WordsMaybe. It's good shit. I always tweet just the purest of tweets. High quality, really. It's a fine wine of tweets, really.
Really?
And,
You told
fuck
us
the
you had a
rest of the-
chicken dinner the other day, and I was like,
A
all right.
Pinot Noir of tweets, if you will.
Yeah, I did get a chicken dinner. Fuck you. That shit's hard. I played Battlegrounds for like 245 hours. I've only had like 6 chicken dinners. It's not because
You're
I'm
welcome.
I
terrible.
played it
About
once and
that,
got
by the
6th
way.
place. I found it to be too easy and never played again.
Yeah.
You didn't win. Too
That-
easy.
That
Place is
march from 10th place to 1st place or 2nd place to 1st place is a fucking big divide, Sean.
I'll just take my word for it.
Okay, well. Anywho, that's all from us for this week. Look forward for more episodes. You can always go back and watch the previous. This was the 9th episode, so you got 8 others to enjoy. Until then, have a good one, everyone.
Later.